Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are finally here at the next chapter release. We are finally making it into the 20s. So we've gone through all our teen chapters now. We are officially at 1120 and we are still not done with Vegapunk's message. We are still getting just the final eeks of details from Oda of this greater story and history that we haven't had no idea about up until now, when it's all coming to light what has actually happened. So let's get into this chapter. Without further ado, Chapter 1120, Atlas. So, for those of you who already know, there's a reason why Atlas is the title name, but for those who don't, you're going to soon find out. But we carry on with Yamato's pilgrimage. Obviously, in the previous one, it was the children throwing stones and rocks at her because of, obviously, her relation with Kaido being, obviously, his son. And we see Denjiro, the new daimyo of the Kibi region, and he's put these children in time out. Yes, he has gathered the children and sort of rat catcher style put them all in a net over his shoulder. Kind of a strong timeout to have there, Denjiro, but whatever. They're still trying to throw rocks, which is kind of funny. But it seems like we're going to meet all of the scabbards, I guess, as we progress through each region on Yamato's pilgrimage. But anyway, last we had left off, we met our new and improved robot emerging from the water, from the depths, and he spoke. It was a memory from Joy Boy's time. We found out his name was Emet, and he sucker punched Valkyrie before he could reach the ship and destroy it. And he was on time. He had arrived. It was, the timing was right, or the time is right, or something on those lines. He was remembering from what Joy Boy had told him, and he appeared because he had heard Luffy's heartbeat, that familiar beat. And we actually start with a flashback this chapter, 26 years ago, in fact, all the way on Punk Hazard. Yeah, quite a jump. We've not really seen much of Punk Hazard back in this time period, specifically because when obviously we went, there was already the nuke that had gone off, plus Akainu's and Aokiji's fight. But back in the time here, it has got like this jungle, like lush vegetation. There are numerous facilities around, and it's quite a nice island. And we have somebody arriving, imploring Vegapunk, saying that we want you to aid our research of the Void Century. We are studying, we are trying, but we need your mind. You know, our research can only go so far. It requires your expertise. And Vegapunk tells this gentleman that I work for the government. I can't afford to leak anything. And I can't afford to work with you. And we see it is indeed Clover. Clover has arrived at Punk Hazard, and we see Vegapunk with two of his dragons, just chilling, you know, in their infancy, before we obviously see them later on. And I thought it was an ancient giant, that, because it looks like the skull from Onigashima that's hiding behind the wall. Others have said it could be the other dragon. I'm not sure. It's really tall. and we just see a head. So it probably is most likely the dragon, but it could have been an ancient giant. You know, Oars style, looking pretty big. It's got the horns, which is why I was thinking. Anyway, Vegapunk is explaining that, right, how many times have you been caught, Clover, now, and they just keep releasing you? Do you understand why they're doing that? They're trying to flush your allies out. Leave the past, just let it remain a mystery. They're just a bunch of old stories. There's no need for us to concern ourselves. So, find a bit more. Obviously, we now know in current time, Vegapunk's continued this research and has thrown this sort of door wide open about the Void Sentry. But at this current time, he has no care for it. So obviously it's the relationship with Clover and what we'll soon see transpire is what pushes him to then take up the research. So Clover begs, he's sat down, he's look, I knew someone who had the D in their name. They carried that letter D, and he was killed right in front of me because of it. We had grown up together. He was my older brother. And Vegapunk's oh shit. And that is when Clover reveals to Vegapunk his full real name as Clive D. Clover. I say Clive, it's the Irish name that's always really funny to pronounce, but I think it's Clive because obviously of the clover that he has on his head. But Clover has also the D initial in his name, and he said on that day, and we see a brief flashback of young Clover over his brother's body with people who've just killed him, traumatized, and he's right, I lied to myself from that day, and then he's comes out with an absolute banger, and he's look, tell me, Vegapunk, how is it fair? How am I meant to accept a world where you can die for just having the wrong name? Oh, Clover is desperate now, and he's begging, and Vegapunk is still look, history will just continue to be suppressed. People are never going to find out. I'll forget what you've just told me as a courtesy, but I'm afraid I can't help. You can leave, be safe, look after yourself. And Clover finishes with again saying an absolutely incredible line where it's the voices of the past call out to you. Just you wait. I'll solve this puzzle, and when I do, you won't be able to ignore them as well. So we jump 4 years ahead, so we're now 22 years, still on Punk Hazard, still before any of the destruction. We do see a young Caesar here before he sets the nuke off, because he's an idiot. But he is talking to Vegapunk about the news from the West Blue, the Buster Call, the biggest massacre ever, and finally Clover has been killed. And he's look, that's what happens when you research the Void Sentry. That's just a mistake. No one's going to do that now. No one's going to be an idiot after what's just happened. And Vegapunk doesn't talk at any point here. It's all just conjecture from Caesar being oh, and that brat, she's the only survivor. And we see the young wanted poster for Robin. And it jumps to when Vegapunk has come to O'Hara and he sees all the books in the water, and that's obviously when he interacts with Dragon. And he can't get it out of his head. He's you must have had a chance to escape, Clover. You had to have had a chance. But you chose death. Was passing on the research that important? You are fools. Did you really expect someone to be curious enough to follow in your footsteps? At this point, Vegapunk is in tears, And obviously, Vegapunk is the one who carries on their research. The will of O'Hara did not die that day. And we jump now back to Egghead. And Vegapunk's message is continuing. Like we found out in the previous chapter, York said it is the memory circuits that are powering this snail. They merely just disrupted it by knocking the Iron Giant into the water. They have to destroy the snail itself. So Vegapunk is saying, someone told me that the voices of the past call out. And history is written by the victors. The words of the vanquished are cast deep, dark into the ocean. And everyone would forget about it. However, their truth can still come to light if the oppressed carry it on their back and endure. So, the obviously winning side, the world government, have eliminated all knowledge of the Void Century, or so they thought, and created this new history, and that was what the world was told. But those that did remember it passed it down, and the ones who were oppressed carried it in their memory and made sure that it would reach the voices who would want to hear it. And we do see two shots from around the world. We get Zeph on the brassiere just chilling out listening to this recording, and we see Tequila Wolf. Yes, we see where Robin spent her 2 years, obviously, with that giant bridge being built. And we do see Robin herself. She's in this really like somber moment where she's just sort of like taking in Vegapunk's message from the snail next to her, but she's like covering her eyes and just sort of like in that moment, like taking it all in of like what Vegapunk's talking about O'Hara about, and she's like carrying it on as well. So it's like a really touching moment. But we go outside of obviously where Robin is inside the Sunny, and Lilith is like, hold your horses, Zorro. Do you get it? Horse, because Nostromo is just behind them. He's like, slow down, we can't leave. And Zorro is like, why? Let's just blast off. We're ready to go. Brooke can hit the coup de burst. We can go. And she is like, look, I've done the maths. Look at this. We'll never make it if he is still around. The furthest we can fly is 1 kilometre. And if that old geezer disrupts us in any way, we will not make it. It will be critical. And she's like, look, the wind is blowing to the north, so we're already at a disadvantage anyway. That's reducing us. But any further jolt, and it would just shorten our distance. We'd crash into the land. It would be over for us. We'd never reach the ocean. And there was this really cool shot of Nostromo like readying a sword attack, just absolutely dominating. Like I still stand on principle. He is the coolest 5 elder among them all. Don't care about what other monstrosity and what other powers the others do. This dude is a horseman with a sword, and he is just intimidating. He is ready to attack, and all of a sudden, Lilith gets just taken down by Atlas. Yeah, Lilith did not see it coming, and I don't think anyone else did, because another thing of discussion is like Zorro, Usopp, like really good situational awareness, observation hacky. No one really saw Atlas coming, and she just clobbers Lilith, takes her down, and we see everyone react, being like, whoa, hold up, like, Atlas, what have you done? What are you doing to Lilith? And before she even says anything, we see that she turns or like breaks something, behind Lilith's ear, like in her head. And that is when Atlas turns to the crew, and in this really like heroic, like stoic shot, she's like, I will leave here in your hands. Take off. I will make sure you make it in one piece. No, that's weird. But the crew reaction is like, what are you talking about? What is happening? York chimes in saying Lilith's gone. Her access has been severed. It is only Atlas left. And Nami decides to shout out, hey, take Lilith inside, Zoro. Atlas, explain yourself. But Atlas is already gone. Atlas has used her rocket boots to intercept Nos Joro, and they clash. And we see that Jinbei's like, look, if we'll regret it now, if we hesitate, we just leave. And Zoro's like, Brook, hit it, my guy. Yo-ho-ho-ho. Hits the coup de burst, and the Sunny takes flight. At the same moment, Nos Joro attacks. He severs Atlas's arm off. We know she's a robot, but in this determined moment, this large Vegapunk grapples around Nos Joro's waist and like boosts and spins his movement away from the Sunny. The Sunny takes off, and Atlas and Nos Joro spiral the other way. And we jump back down to the Fabrio phase where the Viking ships are. There is a brief moment where the Marines are talking like, look, Vice Admiral Hound, give me some context. What is going on here? We have a snake, a boar, a bird, and now a giant robot. Where are these creatures coming from, and how can I leave? Just imagine being a Marine in this moment. Like you survived the Paramount War. God, all those pirates together, guys. That was tough. We made it through though. Couple years past, we can rebuild. We're doing it. Look, I might have climbed the ranks a bit, I'm doing well. Oh, there's a massive buster call. We're going to go to Egghead. Let's do it. Government Island. Nothing could go wrong. 5 kaiju just appear along with a giant mechanical robot who's decided to start duking it out. So yeah, I would retire at that point. But we see Hound being like, look, you know better than me. I haven't got a clue. But we get the incredible moment where Luffy and the robot talk to each other. So as everyone's happy that the Iron Giant, the robot, is back, the robot looks up at Luffy and says, Joy Boy, I am happy we got to meet again. And Luffy, in that incredible moment, goes, huh? Me? And the robot's like, yeah, you. I came like before. Your enemy is my enemy, and I will fight by your side again. And we're getting this like moment between the two of them while Vegapunk's message is carrying on. It talked about, it would be foolish to trust the one-sided account of a 900-year-old battle, which is obviously referring to the robot at present. And Luffy's like, wow, I didn't know this robot could talk. That is so cool. Like, this just makes it even better. And the robot is like, I'm going to protect you from the dangers, Joy Boy. And we see Jupiter and Valkyrie towering over the giant, ready to attack. And the giants are like, let's go, we're saved. Yo, Straw Hat, is he a friend of yours? And Luffy says, I'm not really sure. He keeps talking about this Joy Boy dude like he's got to protect him or something, but who even is that? And there's a moment where we just get like this ship and Luffy like flying above, and the giants are going, wait, he said that robot talked. Like, did you hear anything? It's like, no, I didn't hear anything. Did you hear anything? It's like, oh. So this is obviously, well, most likely similar to Momonosuke and Zunisha, the voice of all things. Luffy is starting now to come into that sort of ability. He's done it briefly, but it's never like he's talked to a creature with voice of all things, whereas now he is now talked to a giant robot. So Bluegrass is like, right, enough, cut them all down, she's still in the child form, we just have to do it. And Vegapunk continues saying, we should scrutinise and learn about the past from every perceivable, possible perspective we can. I wish I had more time. And we get Jupiter coming down in his sandworm form, ready to attack. But the giant, he's loaded, the punch is ready, and then everyone's like, what's going to happen? This incredible moment, and the attack fizzles, and the robot's like, uh-oh. And we see the entire left side of the robot get completely demolished, swallowed whole by Jupiter. He manages to hold off with the other hand and sort of slow his movement, but a pretty devastating attack. And in this exchange, creepy crawly man Jay Garcia scurries up and along Jupiter and leaps off magnificently and lands on the front or the back, it looks probably, of the Viking ship, or the Elbaf ship, and he's like, Kuma, Bonnie, I am not letting you escape. He's got a real vendetta against these two now. He's had enough. And as Sanji is there looking at Jay Garcia in this demonic form, he's like, hey, isn't that the Sunny up there? And we just see like a shot of like the lab and just this tiny ship jettisoning off the edge, and we get that moment on the ship of like real panic of like, oh, everyone hold on to something. And as the Sunny is beginning to descend, Nosturo like breaks apart from Atlas, and he's like, are you really just gonna sacrifice yourself? Like, how pathetic. And she's like, no, I'm just lending them a hand. And Atlas detonates herself. Yes. However she does it, I don't know what type of core she's working with, but sets off a giant explosion that obviously catches Nosturo, but is the propulsion the Sunny needed to make it to the ocean. And we see it is moved well away from the land. It's over water, close to the Viking ship, ready to land. And it hit Usopp and Chopper like, this only worked because of Atlas right now. And York is like, it's finally happened. Atlas is gone. I'm the only Vegapunk left. And we see Nosturo and Jay Garcia like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow your roll. Not quite. We still have to deal with the Stella. He said too much. We've got to end this transmission. Moment of point. Did Nosturo not see what happened on the Sunny? The dude was like 100 meters away, if not less. He's this incredibly powerful being. How did he not see Atlas take down Lilith on the ship and Nami shout out, Zoro take Lilith inside. I mean, just because York said, "Oh, Lilith's access has been severed," you know, does that mean Lilith survives this? The last remaining Vegapunk? Well, aside from York, but York's greedy, so we don't really care what York's doing. I feel like Nostura would have seen Atlas Tombstone pile drive Lilith into the Sunny and be like, you know, just reappear from the ship that she wasn't on to begin with. But anyway, getting sidetracked. We see Vegapunk says, 25 years ago, Gol D. Roger achieved the unprecedented task by circumnavigating the globe. I have no doubt that him and his crew found out everything, and I am confident that you have all come to the same conclusion now at this point. I anticipate that it will ultimately determine how things transpire in the future. And we see the robot stood against Jupiter, stood against Mercury, and he's like, damn, I think I've really rusted away. You know, this is that time you spoke of, isn't it, Joy Boy? Can I use it? So it seems like the robot's got another ace up his sleeve about how he's going to deal with these two kaiju in front of him. But, you know, who knows? But we finally finish with a small panel of impel down prisoners saying, "Did he just say Gol D, Roger?" And that's where the chapter ends, with the revelation to the One Piece world that Roger was indeed not Gold Roger. He is Gol D Roger. Roger had the D in his name, which I don't know why that came as a surprise to anyone. They'd already announced at Marineford that Ace was Roger's son and Ace had the D in his name, so it really wouldn't have took anyone with two brain cells that much to go, do you reckon Roger was a D in his name because Ace is his son and he has one? Like, but I guess the revelation's there. But yeah, Vegapunk's like, look, Goldie Roger and his crew, they must have heard, you know, the voice of the past. They knew it from the purest source. They did the whole, they got to the end, found the One Piece, and, you know, they know the history, and yet they've stayed quiet. Why? Time wasn't right, I guess, as we found out. But yeah, what's the robot going to do? What's he got up his sleeve, eh? Emet thought he was down for the count. He's literally billowing smoke from one part of his body. That's just a gaping hole. But seems like he's got something. But that is where the chapter ends. No break next week. So we're hopefully getting a real big chapter next week. Because what is Emet going to pull out? The Sunny is now basically in the water. The shot was like, perspective wise, like the Sunny is like just above the Viking ship. Literally next chapter it hits the water, we take off. How is the robot going to prevent any of the five elders from catching up? Guess we'll have to wait and see and find out. But let me know what you thought of this chapter. Was Atlas's sacrifice worthwhile? I guess it did mean the Sunny reached the water. But we will find out next time. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time. Bye.